good day, good all the things when you are catching this live. I hope that you are doing well. I'm pretty sure you're like, Suze, 2 lives in one night. What is going on? But I am excited. I'm excited for this live tonight. You are going to get to hear what it takes to go from job to answering your call. And I cannot wait to dive into this conversation because how many of us, like, how many times have you been at work and you're like, I kind of feel like there's more for me? Like you have like this longing inside, but you're not entirely sure like what to do or how to leverage like your transferable skill. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation tonight with Raven. Raven is going to put us on. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, but I want her to introduce herself because she is bomb. And what we're going to be talking about is how do you go from like just the basic 9 to 5 to really finding fulfillment in the work that you do, right? And so I can't wait to bring her on. She is going to blow your mind. I have no doubt about that. So let me just connect. And I can't wait for y'all to meet her. But yeah, so I remember there was a season in my life where it was just like, I know there's something more for me. I just need to figure it out. And here she is. Hey,
Hello.
hi, honey. How are you?
I am good. How are
I'm
you?
so good. So good. I'm
Awesome.
really looking forward to this conversation tonight. I feel like it's going to be informational, but also transformational for the folks who join us on this live. So before we get into it, my love, why don't you let the people know who you are, where you're from, what you do, all the things, all the things.
All right. Well, thank you so much for hosting this. I am so excited to be with you on tonight. I am Raven Nole. I am born and bred in Chicago. I have been in this
Hey,
cold city for a very long time, but I am also the CEO of the RCN Co. I'm a coach. My professional background is also in counseling psychology. So I'm also a counselor. I wear so many different
yep.
hats. So there's a lot that's going on. I'm a mother, a wife, all the things.
Awesome, awesome. So, my love, I'd love to get your feedback. So, one of the things that is true about my audience is likely they have come across my page because they're trying to grow and excel in their career. And I remember a season in my life where, like, I was doing the work and I enjoyed the work that I was doing, but I did not necessarily feel like it was fulfilling, like I was
Yeah,
answering the call that I knew was on my life. And like you just mentioned, we wear so many
so
hats.
many.
So when it comes to being able to identify like what is that call and how do you transition into that, what would be some of the practical steps that you would share with those that are watching? Like how do you do that?
That's a great question because I think, so many women, especially career women, you have the ability to do so much. After being in so many different roles and, engaging with so many different people, you learn different skill sets. And so you're able to communicate, you're able to go in and out of different rooms, you're able to kind of be flexible in a sense. And so sometimes it can feel like, well, what is my actual purpose if I'm able to serve in these different capacities? And so one of the things I know that you probably talk about with your audience is transferable
Mhm.
skills, but I like to talk about transferable motives. And that's
Ooh,
something a little bit different
yeah.
because when you think about it, people like to think about motives in a negative context, right? You think
Sure.
about, if you have a negative motive or whatnot, but we also have positive motives that can drive us and we're unaware of those things. So it's things that come innate to you,
Yeah.
right? And so maybe you're a natural encourager, right? And so every time you're around someone, you're empowering them, you have conversations with them, and they leave and they're like, man, I just feel so much better after I talk to you, right? And then
Yeah.
you have people who are natural healers, right? Anytime they engage with you, it's like a nurturing aspect. I just feel so nurtured. I feel so much better, different things of that nature. So there's innate things that you have, motives that you have that you don't realize when you're engaging with people that can also be traced, just like your skill set. So I encourage people all the time to think about what actually, when they're engaging with someone and you think about a transferable skill, what's a transferable motive as well? How do you encourage people in different aspects of your life? What does that look like? If that's something that you see as a staple or you see as a pattern,
Yeah.
then that may be something that God is called you to do naturally. Now you have to think about is how do I actually and how do I actually grow in that and use that in a different capacity outside of just maybe my career.
That's so good. That's so good. And I love that you put it that way in motives. One of the things that I tell my clients is that success leaves clues. And
Hmm.
when you say transferable motives, I remember thinking back kind of like when it was time for me to make the transition. Like I thought I was going to retire from the work that I was doing before. I was in higher education. I loved all the things. Um, but like there came a very real point where it was like, okay, I know a lot of what you said in terms of like those transferable motives. I could identify. I've always been a speaker.
Yeah,
I've always had the ability to help people kind of see things from a different perspective, help them to grow. And so how can I leverage this so
yeah,
that I can be more effective?
yeah.
I'm getting some folks saying that they can't hear anything. So here's what we're gonna do. If you are watching us and you can hear us and see us well, can you drop a one in the chat for me? If you are watching us and you can hear us and see us well, can you drop a one in the chat for us? Because we're about to drop some gems and you don't want to miss it. I'm just saying. So if you can hear us and see us well, just drop some ones in the chat so like that we know that you're good. All right,
Good,
beautiful. I'm seeing some ones show up.
good.
So one of the things that I would also love your input on, my love, is now that we've identified some of these transferable motives, in true fashion, when we know that it is time for us to transition, right? That fear that feels so paralyzing and
Hmm.
so real
Yeah,
because like it is a very real thing, especially like when you're transitioning from one aspect to another and there's no like guarantee, right?
yeah.
Like you kind of have to trust God that this is going to work out and it's going to work out in your favor.
Hmm.
So for those who are at a crossroads right now, who are trying to identify, like I know I need to transition, but I'm so scared and I'm so
Yeah.
paralyzed. What would be some of the things that you would tell them to pay attention to?
Yeah, that's a good question because change can it can always trigger us into a place of fear, right? And
Sure.
so when you are walking into something different and you get uncomfortable and things are not the same anymore, and when you especially been in a career that's more stable, right?
Mhm.
You've been in something financially stable, you have a work schedule, you have a work routine, and you
Sure.
come out of that into the unknown, that can trigger a lot of fear because a lot of times women, right, we want stability. That's a big thing for us.
Hun-
Like I need to be able to grab and say, okay, I am good. So
Right.
you telling me to go into some unknown space and some unknown season of my life, that can be very scary. But I
Yeah.
also think that some of the things that we need to look out for is that we're not trying to prove ourselves to people.
Ooh.
And so that can be a big thing as well. And
Yeah.
so a lot of this fear may not be coming from, ourselves where we're afraid of instability or we're afraid of change. It could be the fact that if I do this, what will people think, right? They've
Mm.
known me to have a track record of being successful. They've known me to have a record of having an even mind, right?
Yep.
I'm able to make decisions that are
Right.
sober and different things of that nature. And so now I'm venturing out into the unknown. What are people going to think of me? And so then you start to cross over into this people pleasing, people proving, high performance type of mindset where it's
Mhm.
beneficial in your career, but when you're trying to do something different, it can then be a little bit of a crutch, right?
Sure.
And so, yeah, so you want to look out for some of those things and ensure that whatever that motivating factor is, you have to ask yourself, is this real? Because
Mm.
sometimes with that fear factor, right, we're perceiving something as a threat.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
unknown, this is dangerous,
Yeah.
right? Venturing into new territory, this is dangerous. Walking on these waters, this don't seem too safe for me, right? And
Right.
so we could perceive something as a threat that may not actually be a threat. So the first question I would say, you have to ask yourself, am I perceiving this as a threat? Is it real or is it something that's not real?
Yeah.
Right. And so when you can answer that question, that can then say, okay, that helps you to make more sober decisions. Can I go
Sure.
forward? Or should I pause and take a step back? But if it's a perceived threat that's not real, then there's some type of internal motivation or external motivation that's making you feel this
For
way.
sure. Sure. And I would add, be very mindful of who is in your circle in that season of transition.
Yeah.
Because since some folks in true fashion genuinely love you and want to see you do well. Like, but because of that, since they're so used to you doing and operating in a certain way, they will project their fear onto you.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
easiest time to kill a dream is when it's in seed form.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not careful with those who are around you, like not everybody is meant to be, like one of the things that I like to remind myself is that the calling is for me.
Yeah.
It's not a conference call,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so if it were a conference call, then I would have needed everybody on the call
Right.
to pay attention and to be on the
Yeah.
same page.
Yeah.
But because it was so specific for Susanna and what it was intended for in order to reach the right people, I
Yeah.
have to be very mindful of what I am going to do or who I am going to share this with,
Yeah.
because if not, it'll stifle my ability to grow and to be effective. And just one of the things that I like to say is that there's no traffic in called lanes.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like
Right.
that.
So when you're operating in your calling, yes, it will be challenging and it will be difficult, but that does not necessarily mean that you're operating out of alignment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
your character is being developed. Go ahead, my love.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing that I love that you say that because I like to also say that God didn't need a
Come
cosigner
on.
when he created you.
Fact.
And oftentimes, when we start to invite people into these processes of transition and these processes of change, we don't realize that we're actually looking for
Right.
validation. Can you tell me that I'm doing what's right? Can you tell
Yeah.
me that I'm making the right move, that this is actually what God, told me to do,
Yep.
where I should be moving forward in?
Yep.
But we also have to be confident in our ability to know that we know that we know that we heard him right.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest things that I think fear starts to talk us out of, involving the wrong people in those conversations start to talk us out of, because you were confident when you first made the decision, but then after a while, after so many conversations, now you're second guessing, like, should I, is that me, is that what I should be going forward with?
Yep.
And so you do have to be very careful in season of transition who you are involving in those conversations.
For
Absolutely.
sure. That's
Yeah.
so good. So, my love, I love to kind of go from a practical standpoint.
Yeah.
Help us to identify what's the difference between a job and a calling.
Ooh, that's a good one. So I like to say, a job, anyone can get a job, right? You can go down the street and get a job and, go to McDonald's and say, hey, I want to be able to fill an application and get a job, right? You can apply for something. Your calling, you don't apply for that.
Mm,
A job, you apply for it. Your calling, you do not apply for that. And so all of us are born, right, with a specific purpose in the earth,
for-
whether whatever that is, right? We all have unique abilities that connect to that unique purpose. And so we have to know that we're not applying for anything. This was predetermined, predestined for us. And so it's already written in stone. Whether you want to opt out of it and not answer the call or not, that call will always be there, because that is not something you have to apply for. It's something that's already been stamped and approved for you to have. So practically, I want you to think about and even envision filling out a job application, right? When you go online or a written application, you're putting in all your information. You're trying to get someone to approve you. You're trying to tell them all the skill sets you have. You're giving them your rundown of your resume, all those different things, because you want them to see your value.
right.
Your calling doesn't require you to prove your value. It's who you are.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so good. That's
Hmm.
so good. Oh my goodness. So now let me ask you this, and I'm curious to hear your, like, what was one of the things, or maybe multiple things, that
Yeah.
surprised you the most when you transitioned from job to calling?
The most, I would say, I don't know if it was a shock factor or a surprise, but you don't really realize just how more fulfilled you feel when you're not
Mhm.
just working a job,
Right.
right? And so I got to the point where now I don't just work a job. What I do professionally is who I am, right? I'm showing up on every platform and I'm bringing 100% who I am to those platforms because I know that this is
Right.
purpose. Now, with a job, you may be in there doing whatever is necessary just to get that paycheck, right? Whatever is necessary to say, I got the job done, I ended my day well, got those emails completed, X, Y, and Z. But the biggest surprise for me was the actual internal fulfillment. Sometimes when you're like,
Mhm.
you're working jobs and different things of that nature, the overwhelm comes, sometimes anxiety can come, the scheduling, burnout, all those different things. And if you're not careful, even when you're walking and you're calling, those things can happen. But there's a
Yeah.
level of fulfillment internally that you just feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is who I am. There's so much more fulfillment when you do feel tired, right? When you
Yeah.
are overwhelmed, there's a whole different level of just solidification, if you will, internally about what you're doing and how you're moving forward. So I would say the most surprising thing for me was that actual fulfillment. I didn't realize that I had just been working, a
Yeah.
job, getting a paycheck, just doing what was necessary to survive, and then coming over to walking in purpose and answering my calling. I got two kids. I have a husband. We just launched a ministry. I got so much stuff going
Yeah.
on. I'm more busy now than I was when I was actually working in corporate. And I just feel so much more fulfilled, even with more on my plate and more on my schedule. That
Mhm.
doesn't even compare to that internal fulfillment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the biggest surprise for me when it came to going from job to calling was that all of the things that I was initially afraid of,
Yeah.
I had already been preparing for. Does that make
Mm. Yeah.
sense? My fear, like I had this fear that no one would show up when I go live, right?
Yeah.
And as I was going through that season of transition, I remember so clearly being frustrated because the first time that I had to go live, it was during my corporate run.
Yeah.
And it was to host a online open house. And I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to connect with people and build relationships virtually. And that was not true. So I think that going from job to calling, again, success leaves
Yeah.
clues. So some of the things that you have already been doing that in some cases were your unique agitation, like they
Yeah.
frustrate you, but they didn't frustrate anyone else,
Hmm.
are the very bedrock things that are preparing you to propel forward. Um,
Yeah.
so like it's just been so like you said, like that fulfillment
Yeah.
of not feeling like the ball or the shoe is going to drop at any given point.
Hmm.
You're not necessarily on to perform.
Right.
You're on there to just
Yeah.
be. And I feel
Yeah.
like in corporate spaces, we've at least for me, it
Yeah.
felt like I always had to be on.
Yes, yes. And I would say too, oh my gosh, you don't even realize how prepared you really are until
Mhm.
you come out of some of those spaces, because some of those spaces can make you feel very unprepared.
Yeah.
It can make you feel as if you shouldn't be here or you don't deserve to be here. Some of that imposter syndrome, different things that nature can come up sometimes when you're in those spaces. But then when you start to venture out into purpose, I think one of the things for me as well, I didn't realize just how prepared I was to step into this space.
Yeah.
All the things that you learn, just, kind of like you said, with all of the job experience, all the skills that you've been able to pick up over the years of being in a corporate space, all of that prepared me professionally to be able to be an entrepreneur, to be able to steward my own business, to be able to effectively lead a team, to be able to be a partner with other collaborations. All of that prepared me for where I am today. But when you're in it, you don't always recognize how it's preparing you, and that frustration. You're like, I just want to be out of here. I don't want to continue to
I know that's right.
be
This is
in this space. I'm ready to just get, when is my time to be able to step out, to be able to experience some level of change. And then once you transfer over and you're like, I'm walking in a purpose, I'm doing this thing, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm moving forward. You're like, man, I needed every single one of those seasons that felt hard, that felt difficult, that felt frustrating. And I was just ready to check out and be done.
for
Yeah.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So now, my love, let me ask you, this conversation has been so good and you've been dropping bomb after bomb after bomb. But for those who are watching and are like, I need to have more of this, like, I want to be surrounded by other women who are in the same kind of headspace that I'm in, feel like they want to pursue their calling. I know that there's a master class coming up. Tell the people about it.
Yeah.
Tell them about it.
Yeah. So we have an upcoming masterclass. It is a 5-day wonderful experience called Call to Women Masterclass. And
Mhm.
I've been a part of this now for 3 years. It is an amazing experience for women who are just ready to step into more. If you've been
Yeah.
feeling that internal, I'm not sure what's my next step, you feel like you've kind of grown out of the space that you're in, maybe career wise, and you're just ready to venture out to something new. You've had that feeling of, I think there's more to me than this, where a lot of women do experience that and feel that once they've been in a certain space or career atmosphere for a long time. We are inviting women to join this 5-day masterclass. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things: conviction, commitment, clarity, really helping you get crystal clear on your calling. I'll be teaching and praying Wednesday morning and Wednesday night, helping women to get crystal clear on what God has called them to do, how to walk in it. We have some amazing guests that are going to be a part of it. And my sister, Natasha Miller, she's actually hosting, and she's going to be also teaching. She is the lead for Call to Women. And she's going to be doing an amazing time with just launching everything on that Monday. But we'll be live Monday through Friday of next week. We're starting Monday the 17th, and I think Friday is the 21st, I
Something
believe.
like that.
Something like
Cool.
that. And that you can join us.
Yeah. So listen, if you have enjoyed this conversation and you're like, I want to hear more, I want to know more about how I can transition and go from job to calling. If
Yeah.
you comment the word purpose, y'all already know Susanna the bot is going to send you the information to join. The masterclass is 1000% free, right? And I'm going to be on there as well because I want to continue to grow. I want to continue to learn. I don't think that operating in purpose is a destination. It's
Yeah.
more of a lifelong commitment
Yeah.
to just operating in your greatness. So, my love, I want to be respectful of your time because you a mama, I'm a mama, bath time, dinner, all the things. But as we come to a close of this, what would be kind of closing words or remarks that you would share with the audience? What would be the biggest takeaway that you would want them to walk away with tonight?
Yeah, I would just encourage the women to follow that inner conviction, right? And so, right now in the season that you're in, you may be feeling like, I think it's time for me to move forward. I really feel like I should be doing something differently. I really feel like I should be putting some focus or attention pertaining to my purpose and what God has called me to do. That's that internal, that rest that you don't have internally, right? You're in a place of just trying to figure out what's next and what's to come. Lean into that and make a
Yeah,
decision to move forward in that. Sometimes we like to suppress it and say, maybe next time, or it's not the time. I tell people all the time, there is no perfect time. Life is only going to get more busy. It doesn't really slow down. And so if you wait longer, you really may not have the time. So I would encourage women who are feeling that way, who are in that space and in that place in life, to lean into that. And what's the worst that can happen? You can learn something new.
absolutely. Absolutely. And also build your network, right? I
Yeah.
think one of the things that was transformational for me when I was launching all of this was that I did not have to do it alone.
Yes.
And for a long period of time, I bought into the narrative that I can do it all by myself.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
wired that way. We're just not. We're
No,
wired to be in
for
community.
sure.
But the lie that we've been sold is that you can do it better by
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
Or if you grew up in the inner city like I did, then you default to not trusting people.
Yep,
Right.
that's true.
And so what I love about the masterclass is twofold. Number one, you'll be learning how to lean into those convictions and those emotions and
Yeah.
how to leverage those so that
Yeah.
you can transition from job to calling with a plan. Because, like,
Mhm.
sometimes you just go and you're like, I'm going to figure it
Yep.
out. And it's just so much harder. But so there's that. And then the other thing is that you're surrounded with other people who are on this journey with
Yeah.
you. And
Mhm.
you're learning from people who have done that.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you comment purpose, Susanna the bot will send you the details on you being able to join us. It is free and it is
Mhm.
virtual. So
Mhm.
don't give me that you can't join. Okay? Look,
Listen.
it's, it's virtual, friend.
Right from your couch.
Okay? We listen and we
Come
don't judge. You
on.
just need to show up. Raven, sweetheart. sweetheart, thank you so, so very much for taking the time to connect with us today, for just sharing
Absolutely.
these incredible gems. I
Mhm.
cannot wait to hear what you are going to be bringing during this masterclass because I feel like this was a preview to what
Thank
is to come.
you. Thank you.
And I pray that you continue to be blessed and bless others. I know it blessed me tonight.
Oh,
And so if this blessed y'all, if this helped you tonight having this conversation, can you drop some love in the chat? Let Raven know that you appreciate her presence here. Drop some hearts, drop some ones, do something. Let us know that
thank
you
you.
got
Thank you. It was a joy. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Loved your gems
it.
as well. Just really enjoyed the conversation and being here. So thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. All right, y'all. Have a great night. I am going to leave this live up. So if you want to go back so that you can grab some of the things that perhaps you were writing too fast or we were talking too fast, make sure that you go back to the live. It's going to be up on my page. Raven, thank you so much again, my love. And I will see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye,
Bye
everybody.
bye.